Good afternoon. This is the Road to Philippine FinTech Festival, happening from October 17 to 21, 2022. Organized by Digital Pilipinas, now the country's largest private sector movement for teching up the country. Philippine FinTech Festival is the country's largest digital economies festival. As a prelude to the festival, we have organized a webinar series focusing on a wide range of agenda in support of teching up various industries, from banking, fintech, insurtech, Web 3.0, metaverse to co-op tech. And today, that road leads us to the Open Finance Summit, cultivating the next generation of startups and MSMEs enabled by open finance. To open the event, let us all welcome Digital Pilipinas and World FinTech Festival convener, FinTech Philippines Association trustee and executive director, and Geyser Maclang co-founder, Amor Maclang.
Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Magandang araw. Assalamualaikum. It's so good to see everyone here. And to all those who are watching across Facebook and all our digital assets, welcome to the road to the inaugural Philippine FinTech Festival. Before we share with you what's in store, not just for the Philippines, but more importantly, in relation to the role of the Philippines to the rest of the bigger digital economy in ASEAN, I would like everyone's indulgence to run a very short video on the Philippine FinTech Festival.
The ASEAN economy is currently valued at over $3 trillion. With a population of over 600 million people, ASEAN is becoming the fourth largest economy in the world due to the impact technology has had in shaping cross-border collaboration and business in the region. The Philippines has become one of the fastest growing adopters of technology in the world. This has broadened the scope of local SMEs to engage in cross-border business. This is the first time that Philippine legacy brands are teching up, and we are bringing together industry leaders across various verticals to help solve the country's problems through tech. ASEAN is setting the pace as a global leader for technology and innovation, with a string of events in Cambodia, Thailand, Philippines, and Singapore that will dictate the future of our digital economy. This all begins in October at the Digital Pilipinas Festival. The Digital Pilipinas Festival is a week-long summit that will host the inaugural Philippine FinTech Festival and the World FinTech Festival Philippines, jointly with Elevandi, a non-profit by the Monetary Authority of Singapore and the organizers of the Singapore FinTech Festival. We are going beyond FinTech by bringing together ASEAN traditions, legacies, government leaders, technologists, investors, and startups into an ecosystem that connects local and regional industries through tech. For technologists, it's the opportunity to share their breakthroughs of the leaders shaping local and regional industries. For investors, this is a chance to discover innovative solutions to the challenges millions across ASEAN face today. For the government, it's the platform to understand policies that will define digital economies in the future. And for public attendees, it's the venue where they can meet, learn from, and be inspired by a host of leaders and innovators in person. The Philippine FinTech Festival and the World FinTech Festival Philippines will lay the foundation for cross-border collaboration, business, and partnerships through scheduled meetups between regional neobanks and wallets, an event on AI and blockchain, a hackathon on Web 3.0 executions, and sustainable finance with the Monetary Authority of Singapore and Oliver Wyman. Additional hackathons on insurtech, enertech, and various industries. The Philippine pilot launch of the SME Digitalization Program through the SME Financial Empowerment Program with India, Ghana, and Singapore. The launch of trade associations for health tech, insurtech, martech, regtech, proptech, and other relevant industry groups.
Together, let's build a digital Pilipinas through open finance.
Through e-commerce.
Through edutech.
Through fintech.
Mabuhay ang digital Pilipinas.
Let's build a digital Pilipinas together.
Shape the digital economy. Join us as we bring you the first leg in a tech-led journey across the ASEAN region. Join the Digital Pilipinas Festival as we bring you the World FinTech Festival Philippines and the Philippine FinTech Festival this October.
Thank you, everyone. I don't want to take much more of your time, but everyone is probably wondering what's in store over the next 5 days, beginning October 17 to 21. And it is actually no accident that for the first time in close to 5-6 years that the FinTech Festival has been running in Singapore, it's the first time that all of the various FinTech groups are lining up to show the rest of the world that the biggest fintech in the world is not one company, but it's a region, and that's ASEAN, where the Philippines plays an extremely important role, especially with regards to what's happening now. Now, allow me to just explain to you the 4 day parts and the 4 filters with which I'd like you to take a look at the week-long festival. So the morning, from the 18th to the 21st, from 8 to 12 a.m., is the World FinTech Festival Philippines. And close to 200 speakers from all over ASEAN and the rest of the world are actually coming down to meet all of you in person, to share their thoughts, and to start doing business with all of you on ground. First day is all about tech for government and tech for good. We're featuring several country case studies from Europe, Central Asia, ASEAN, China, and also at the same time, there will be a FinTech AMA from around the world with various FinTech leaders from ASEAN and the world coming together to meet you in person. We're extremely proud that on this day will also be the Cooperative Summit. So today we have Ms. Ann Quisha, one of the shining examples on what we can do in the open finance space, to talk about the role of cooperatives in a bigger open finance ecosystem. Day 2 is all about cybersecurity, RegTech, and of course, what I think is the biggest tech revenge of the Philippines on the rest of the world. That will be Web3 digital assets and also the metaverse. This is chaired by Wei, who's with us today, and he's also the CEO of coins.ph. Day 3 is going to be about the future of wallets, the future of digital banks, and of course, AI and big data. The last day is a celebration of everything startup and also, of course, open finance, shared by none other than our host today, Mr. Todd Schweitzer of Broncos. The associations for digital banks, decentralized technologies, 2 regional fintech associations, and of course, the InsurTech and Health Tech Association are all launching during the Philippine FinTech Festival. Lunchtime, because we're all in a 1 meal a day diet. No, I'm just kidding. We're doing instead a hackathon on sustainable finance, Web3, and of course, later on, Todd will share with you what he's doing to put Philippine Open Finance, that's PHINANCE for you, in the global map. The afternoon is really the heart of Digital Pilipinas. This is where we committed to most of you 5 years ago that we will tech up the Philippines one industry at a time. And invite exclusive forums in the afternoon and overseen by KPMG, all of the incumbent leaders in the various industries, together with the technologists, the legislators, and the national line agencies, will come together to craft the blueprint for their individual industries. We also have our legal team on hand to file the relevant legislative work where legislation is either lacking or long overdue to be revised. Then throughout the year, KPMG will be working closely with Digital Pilipinas to make sure that commitments are made and also met so that next year, same time next year, we can move the needle in terms of digitalizing our industry. We are also at the same time launching the Women Leaders in Finance and Technology on October 19, and we have some of the biggest women leaders from all around ASEAN to join us. I would not like to belabor the point. Really, today is a teaser as to what's happening for Digital Pilipinas in one of the most important pillars for DP, which is open finance. And at this particular juncture, I would like to turn it over to the hosts and to join everyone to please be part of the World FinTech Festival and the Philippine FinTech Festival. And let's build a digital Pilipinas through open finance. Maraming salamat po at mabuhay kayong lahat.
Thank you, Amor. Now, to set the stage and the theme of the summit, please welcome co-founder and CEO of Brancas, Southeast Asia's leading open finance technology provider, Todd Schweitzer.
All right. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Todd Schweitzer. Thank you so much to Amor and Digital Pilipinas and Diego for organizing the session. Looking forward to learning from Tin and Wei and Anne and Chris a bit later on. But I just want to give 5 minutes of an introduction to open finance. It's become a bit of a buzzword, especially in the Philippines. And so I want to demystify it for just a few minutes by showing some real world examples. Just very briefly about me. So Brancas, we're an open finance technology company. We provide API publishing, helping banks to launch and manage commercial API products. For example, being able to open an RCBC account on a third-party app, or API aggregation inside the RCBC or Descartec app, just an example. Brancas is also involved in global open finance policy, whether it's the Open Banking Exchange Asia, which is a global nonprofit supporting open banking policy. We're the chair of the FinTech Philippines Open Finance Committee, and we're also the chair of the Indonesia FinTech Association Open Banking Working Group. And we see this as vital because there's so much demystification and misconceptions, I think, to be addressed in open finance. So Brancas has a role to play, I think, in clarifying standards and also demonstrating real business cases for open finance. Okay, so first of all, open finance is much more than data sharing. I think a lot of time when you hear open banking, open finance, the first thing that comes to mind is I, as a bank, that means I have to share my data to my competitors, which might be insecure. I'm a regulated institution. How am I going to make sure that that's possible, right? Number one, I think that data sharing is the most boring part of open finance. I think there's a lot more commercial tage cases available. And number two is there's actually a lot of standards and technical technical standards so that open finance can remain secure. That's a topic for another day. Maybe we can ask a tough question of Chris on API security. But I think open finance, when you expand, it can support everything payments, whether it's retail payments, pay by bank, whether it's corporate disbursements, whether it's remittance, whether it's crypto on and off ramps, being able to buy or move out of crypto holdings. For identity and authentication, the Philippines is a market where online identity verification and the KYC or onboarding process is very manual, very expensive, very cumbersome, with a lot of abandonment along the way. A friend of mine has a fintech startup, and they lose 80% of their potential registrants through the conversion funnel because of this manual KYC. Account opening, basically being able to acquire users without building a branch in Eastern Samar or running agents through the mall kiosk. So actually changing the economics for customer acquisition. Loan origination. We see a lot of this, particularly in e-commerce, both for the merchant side, being able to finance merchants who are selling online, and for customers so they can pay in installments. Card issuing, so that you can actually do instant scoring and issuance of a virtual and later to come physical card, Visa, MasterCard, JCB, and others. Investments in brokerage and some very basic investment products. And then an API marketplace where the bank can actually become its own third-party marketplace and maybe charge Apple style 20–30% of every third-party app that exists on their marketplace. We've seen these models now emerge in places like the EU and in the US. So some examples. First, the statement data aggregation. This is the boring stuff. So this is an example from Singapore where using SGX, I, as a DBS retail customer, I can choose my OCBC account to link. I give consent to link my accounts. That's number 3. And then I am instructing OCBC to then share my data back to DBS so I can view it all in one place. Now, frankly, there really isn't a commercial use case for this. This is a nice to have for customers, and it serves some value in terms of credit scoring and maybe marketing or qualification, but there's not really a business case to be built behind this. Now, for corporate data, I think it's a little more interesting, even though it's a little bit more behind the scenes, because this solves your financial operations flow. So Broncos in Singapore, our Singapore business, we bank with UOB, and we have agreed to link our UOB corporate bank account with our Xero accounting system. So now, instead of our finance team downloading, statement files, reformatting them, and then uploading them to Xero, UOB just provides a dump of data, not quite real time, but several times a day, into Xero so that we can have automated reconciliation. Now, moving on to payments. So this is an example for Union Bank and GCash, where inside the GCash app, I can link my Union Bank account and I can agree to pull funds in moving forward with just one tap, right? So that's very convenient for me, the customer, who I can top up my account in about 10 seconds. For Union Bank, they're basically earning fees that GCash pays because GCash wants me to top up. And they're earning fees on basically a zero marginal cost transaction because they're just transferring from a Union Bank, my Union Bank account to a GCash Union Bank settlement account. Identity and authentication. So those are big words, but basically what this means is faster ways for me as a customer to verify that I am indeed Todd. Now in Singapore, you have a top-down solution. The government has implemented SingPass, and I can use my SingPass login just like a Google login with government sites and now with bank and other regulated online sites. Now in the Philippines, hopefully with the national ID, we'll have something like this, but we're probably several years away. The reason I highlight this is for banks and e-wallets and regulated and BSP regulated institutions, offering some kind of identity as a service can be super valuable because the KYC providers may charge upwards of $3 per verification. GCash, frankly, is already doing this with CIMB and BPI, which we'll see in a second. So the product is already out there, and there are very few institutions that are actually monetizing from identity. Now here's the account opening example. So today, both CIMB and GCash and BPI offer account opening inside the GCash app, right? Now I don't know this for a fact, but anecdotally I've heard that the vast majority, somewhere around 80% of CIMB's new customer onboarding now comes from the GCash app. So think about that for a second. Acquiring customers who open an account via GCash in about a minute because they're using their same KYC identity as a service, versus CIMB running ads, setting up kiosks at the mall, building branches, paying an agent network. Instead, they can have their customers flow through the GCash app into CIMB, and then it's CIMB's responsibility to then upsell that customer to a vehicle loan or a credit card or a high value, a different savings product or investment product. SME financing. So in Tokopedia, the largest e-commerce site in Indonesia, now there's a whole ecosystem of lenders that can offer instant merchant financing. So what that means is if I am a seller on Tokopedia, based on my seller ranking, my total volume of transactions that I've done, the types of products that I sell, and other trust metrics, different lenders will offer me a line of credit so that I can buy inventory. And I can basically get approved for the loan by sharing my data. I can get access to the funding immediately into my Tokopedia wallet, and then I can turn around and spend it on inventory within minutes, right? Now, I'll compare this to the typical SME financing approach where you're printing out documents, you're getting stamps and notarized certificates, and you're taking that to the bank and they're processing it over a 4-week or 8-week period, right? Versus instant financing all taking place on Tokopedia and with verified data about the seller. Banking as a service. So we have one bank, which is actually the Rural Bank of Romblon, but it's NetBank here in the Philippines, which is really the Philippines' first banking as a service bank. So all of their distribution is through partner apps. They don't have a net bank app. They have one branch in Tablas Island, but basically the entire distribution and servicing model is happening through partners, right? So there's no net bank app, there's no branches, and any app can offer digibanking now powered by NetBank. So here's some examples of what the experience looks like for the customers of NetBank who are using this API sandbox, right? It's a very fundamentally different way of thinking about banking and thinking about distribution, because the way that you're accessing NetBank is through APIs and through partner apps rather than a NetBank or Romblon branch. So some other examples here, I want to get to the panel, so I'll wrap up, but some other examples, Rails Bank, Community Federal, Clearbank, Cross River, these are all examples of licensed banking institutions who are powering the next generation of apps that are using embedded finance or open finance. So these are all mostly in the UK and Europe examples, but we're starting to see the infrastructure coming into place here in the Philippines. So one more example is Starling Bank in the UK, which has basically built an API marketplace and ecosystem. And now close to half of its business and retail customers are using third-party services that they discover and use from Starling Bank. And Starling Bank is earning a platform fee based on those integrations. So they're basically building an app store for various related services to banking, but that are all available to Starling Bank customers. Okay. That's it for now. Looking forward to the panel. Thank you so much for the time. And Diego, over to you, man.
Thank you so much, Todd. Now, this afternoon, we invited an intimate group of aligned industry stakeholders to highlight how open finance can empower and enable the new generation of startups and MSMEs in the country evolving digital economy. Please welcome Chris Bennett, Chief Technology Officer of GoTime Bank. GoTime Bank is a joint venture between Time, a Singapore-headquartered digital banking group, and the Gokongwei Group, a Philippine-based conglomerate that aims to revolutionize digital banking in the Philippines through accessible digital kiosks. Ann Keisha, CEO and President of DigiCoop Technology Service Cooperative. DigiCoop's mission is to unite Philippine cooperatives and empower them through technology. Agustin Santiago, Chief Digital Innovations Officer, Uno Bank. Uno Digital Bank is the first fintech in the region to be awarded an outright digital banking license in Southeast and South Asia. Wei Zhuo, CEO of Coins.ph. Coins.ph is the most established mobile wallet and digital currency exchange in the Philippines, which has more than 16 million users who are buying and selling cryptocurrencies on the Coins app. And once again, Todd Schweitzer, CEO and co-founder of Brancas. To moderate the panel discussion, please welcome the founding director of the Philippine Association for Digital Commerce and Decentralized Industries, Diego Ramos.
Thank you very much, Diego, as well. The ones doing the voiceover, say my name. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Diego. You are watching the Open Finance Summit that highlights the growing need and movement for wider open finance adoption globally, not only within the financial non-bank segments, but also amongst the MSMEs, startups, cooperatives, and 53% of unbanked individuals in the country. So as we go on, we have two parts. So we speak amongst ourselves, and of course, before we end, we ask the audience to ask us also some questions. And we're now ready. Let's dive in and find the first question. Todd, well, there's nothing else here that could just demystify this except you. Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas released an open finance framework last year. 9 pages document, 9-8. Can you give us a quick update? Maybe your own insight, how to make it more, like say, understandable to most consumers.
Sure. Hi, Diego. So the BSP fortunately has started on an open finance policy roadmap. Now I would say it's very early days. What they've done is they've assembled a group of industry participants representing the different regulated types of companies in in under the BSP. So that includes digital banks like GoTime and Uno, as well as EMIs, e-wallets like coins.ph, and other BSP supervised entities. And they have a fintech representative as well, covering the rest of the industry. I think we are at the pre-planning stage of setting the guidelines and determining what the scope would be for an industry pilot in the coming months. But I also think that, you know, as the BSP is setting guidelines for the institutions it regulates, open finance is already happening today. It's happening through the Brancas and Kaya Founders Open Finance Challenge, where we have 11 different startups building new products based on open finance. It's happening through the likes of GoTime and Uno that are thinking about and implementing APIs as part of their business model. I don't want to give too much away, but to the extent that they can share, I know it's part of their business plan. And certainly in coins as well, where you're using APIs to plug into different services and create an ecosystem for your counterparts. And you know, Anne and I have been talking a lot about how we can enable cooperatives too, because they're really the last mile for the underserved in the Philippines. And so connecting them to open finance ecosystem, I think, is so important. So, you know, I think it's great to see that the BSP is making progress on a roadmap. I think while that's several years out from implementation, I think it's important to look at what the industry is already implementing in open finance.
Yeah, great idea, Todd. Chris, did you say that your company are part of this like planning committee with the BSP of the Open Finance Network? Have you put your hand on it?
Yeah, I think this sort of initiative is...
Any insights from the Open Finance Network?
Yeah, I think this sort of initiative is really important. Exactly as Todd said, though, that you know, this is a good sort of roadmap to help us sort of get to something, but it doesn't mean that we have to wait to start that. We can work together, we can work with partners. I'm hoping that the roadmap really helps standardization, helps it easier for future people to sort of learn from the best ways of doing this, to lower the costs for future entrants. But you know, it doesn't mean that we have to wait. It's very much something that we can work, you know, either bilaterally or as partners. And Todd has already given some great examples where this is already happening. I think it's really important to sort of drive that side of things as well.
Wait, before I go to Anne, because Anne has been in the industry and she's been an awardee for our typical traditional banks as well. She sits in the board of Land Bank of the Philippines. But just some insight. How do you think about the open finance framework? Under-regulated, over, or just okay? Any thoughts? No?
Maybe Wei didn't catch that.
Yeah,
but,
I think
Diego.
I apologize. You know, third world, but we're developing that. Anyway, I just want to get your insights, Anne, Agustin, Wei, and Chris, on what you think about the initial a memo of BSP for the Open Finance Network. Is there something that you want to put in the future, or let's say, are we as a government, you think we're easy to work with as well?
Hi, Diego. I'll answer that. Okay, with the proper regulatory guidelines and sandbox for open finance, I think it will pave the way for more inclusion in terms not just on the financial side, but also digitally, to be able for these people to be able to access not just finances, also capital and other means of investments and insurance. So like, for example, in our case, while cooperatives are still in the early stages of digitalization, DigiCoop, our platform, was really designed with an ecosystem in mind, with to pave the way for open finance and the embedded finance, to provide not just speed and access, but also soon personalization. So I think with the right regulatory guidelines, we will be able to protect the data protection, of course, with an utmost consideration. Should be able to provide a proper framework for this.
Yeah. Yes. Staying on that, but staying on that topic. I'm not sure on how you think about the adoption of open finance, but what are the policy level challenges or structural social challenges you think that make us adapt slowly or faster to that?
Is that question for me, Diego?
Yes, Anne. Yes, Anne.
Okay. Yeah, all right. Of course, the very basic infrastructure consideration, the low internet in different places, especially with cooperatives who are in the far-flung areas, in the remote areas of the Philippines, where internet is not yet at that ultimately in high performance. That in a way hinders the adoption, not just of open finance, but the technology in general. So still, we are still hopeful that the next leadership and next set of groups and economies and other investors would see that need and make that a real priority at this point in time.
Yeah. I think you're just in the middle of that, I'm sure. Wei, quoting from your website of coins.ph, on a mission to create an open financial system that providing everyone easy access to Web3 and other assets. What can the entire ecosystem, like banks, insurers, payment systems, tech, regulators, amongst others, do to accelerate adoption of open finance? What do you think is what's the push there?
Or maybe the role of digital assets in relation to open finance, right?
Yeah, I think from Coin's perspective, I think what's really insightful from Todd's presentation, I think is sort of the ability basically for a wallet to be at the center of your life, rather than to be and then not just sort of like your financial life, but actually your day-to-day life. And I think that's really unique in that I think what's really and that's sort of like what we're trying to build at Coins is in terms of we want to be a part of your digital life. I think when sort of with COVID, what we've seen sort of with Gcash, they basically solved a lot of the day-to-day problems in terms of ordering services from both on-demand perspective and from e-commerce perspective. I think that proliferation sort of took place in the Philippines. But I think the next wave of digitalization is actually of the internet. What that means is basically we're seeing the change of the ownership economy in the internet, where basically the assets that you have online, or instead of being owned by the big guys like Google and Facebook, now you can actually own a piece of the internet. And I think with that, I think it's sort of like it's going to proliferate a whole new wave of creators and basically wealth generation. I think last year we saw a very simple game in Axie Infinity. Basically having the country in a frenzy in terms of and I think that's just a very simple proof of concept of one game that was developed by less than 100 people in Vietnam. And I think that that type of creation. Especially in terms of the blow up effect of that is actually quite interesting. And I think we may see a lot more of those type of games and those type of sort of metaverse worlds coming in, where we can actually take part and be owners of that. And that's sort of be owners of your digital assets. I think that's sort of the key of I think sort of maybe even the great equalizer in terms of establishing ownership of assets. And I think nowhere in the world do you see sort of wealth creation comes when you can actually own things, right? When you can actually own income generating assets. I think historically, that has been in the form of land and equipment and buildings and stuff. But I think in the future, that should be the case for digital assets as well. And I think that's going to be a tremendous amount of opportunity for all of the Philippines and all of Southeast Asia, just because we don't own anything, right? Or the stuff we own just doesn't generate anything, right? Or if you don't come from a certain class, I think that's sort of like then sort of this digital asset economy is actually quite open, like extremely open, to be honest. Right. So I think in addition to a lot of sort of the stuff that's available, I think on the financial side, I think I want all of us to sort of remain focused in terms of there's another sort of open finance that's available, I think, in the world of digital assets.
Hi, I have a question for Wei, Chris, and Todd. While we're waiting for Diego to connect, what do you see is the special role of the Philippines in relation to this bigger ASEAN fintech economy that we're all advocating for? I really want to get your ideas from an outsider/insider looking in, right? Many of the players locally tend to focus more on what's happening within, but I really feel like in digital Pilipinas that there's a bigger role that the Philippines can play. So I want to hear from Todd, I want to hear from Chris, and I want to hear from Wei in terms of what you see the role of the Philippines is in this bigger digital economy. Thank you.
Sure, let me just give 30 seconds. I think the one is Filipinos are abroad. What is it, 11 million OFWs, many of whom are in Singapore, many of whom are in Thailand. They are sending money home. They have dual residences. They are managing accounts in multiple markets. And so from a fintech point of view, I think it's an interesting problem to solve that has real impact on people's lives, because the total transaction cost of a cross-border remittance into the Philippines, I think, is still around 8 to 10%. Just to give, and it's cash on both ends typically. So the sender is sending cash through Lucky Plaza in Singapore to being picked up at a cash center in the province. So even just banking one node on the on the OFW side or on the recipient side can really mean a lot for a low income family. That's number one. Number two, and speaking as a startup, I think Indonesia has really taken off. There's, I think, $1.2 billion of local VC venture capital that flowed into Indonesia last year just for Indonesian startups. So Indonesia is really maturing as just an absolutely massive tech ecosystem. And I will tell you, the Indonesian tech companies that are looking to expand to ASEAN are going to Philippines next. And that's a great thing because they can take lessons learned. They can introduce a bit of competition here in the Philippines. Competition among startups, but really competition against or alongside some of the incumbent large institutions. And so that is a good thing. And I think the conventional wisdom is that the wave of tech innovation and startup capital and talent is coming to the Philippines next. So those are the two bridges that I see.
That is true, Todd. I had the same experience coming to Indonesia as well. I thought we were one of the fastest. They have just a bigger market. Your observations I totally agree. And on you still, how can we effect change in mindset in terms of data ownership amongst Filipinos?
Hi, Diego. I think
Hello?
Chris and also Wei is about to weigh in on their comments about the role of the Philippines. I think Chris and Wei had something to say as well.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with Todd on, especially on that first point. It's very much not necessarily unique, but it's a special feature of the Philippines with people spread out across the region, across the globe. So it really means there's an opportunity for more innovative and different types of product. So if you're a startup here, sort of looking at the local market, well, don't forget that there's always a market of people sort of traveling in other markets as well. And typically you'll be able to tailor your product better because you're going to understand the Filipino culture, the Filipino expectations, more than say an Indonesian startup trying to target Filipinos in Indonesia or elsewhere. So I do think there's great opportunities, to have that more sort of mindset. It's pretty tough though. If you're a startup in the Philippines, to really be able to sort of reach out and try and target, a second sort of country or somewhere outside, it involves more travel, involves perhaps more work with associations, looking to speak to more partners, looking at some of the associations that are here, to really reach out to those other countries to really get a better feel for how do you get started and how can you approach people. But the opportunity is certainly there. And the more opening up there is, I think I saw recently a PPMI roadmap, sort of talking about being able to sort of do cross-border transactions, with 3 or 4 countries from the Philippines. That sort of stuff will also sort of generate more opportunities. It's more sort of opening up, and it'll mean that more people will think about other products, innovative ideas on top of those as well.
Yeah. Wade, do you have something to say about it?
Yeah, I'll
Wade?
just add 2 points. Yeah, I mean, I think Philippines could actually be an exporting country in terms of on the digital asset side. I'll add 2 on the same horn. Mainly just because the language. I think in Indonesia is actually a very domestic country. What you're seeing is basically Indonesian VCs, Indonesian entrepreneurs create for the domestic economy. But I actually think Philippines, with its sort of tremendous expertise in English and also sort of understanding of Western culture, could become a massive exporter of digital asset content. And we're seeing that, I think, in the Web3 space right now. We've actually seen a lot of the creators that in the Web3 economy actually coming raising capital and then actually producing for a global basis. And I think mainly, maybe it's because the domestic market is not there. Maybe it's because the domestic fund, not necessarily in terms of the consumer market, but actually the domestic fundraising market is not there. I think that's actually probably the biggest difference that I see between Indo and Philippines. Maybe because of the proximity between Indonesia and Singapore, the VC money here has looked at Indonesia much more. But I think that's changing. I think you're seeing that in the digital banking space, right? The Philippines digital banking market is actually much open to international capital and international, ownership vis-a-vis the Indonesian market, vis-a-vis the Thai market. So I think this openness in terms of the Philippines from an ownership perspective, I think could be super, super interesting for capital, just in the case of, in our acquisition of coins, right? We actually had a pretty, very, very, smooth experience in our acquisition of coins from Gojek with our regulators here in the Philippines. I'm sure, in other countries it would have taken, months, if not years. So I think that open attitude here is actually bodes very well, I think, for the Philippines, as we're seeing the world in different countries actually closing up. And China, even US, right? So sort of and not to speak some of the peers here in Southeast Asia. I think those 2 things, like by remaining sort of one of the few open countries, both in terms of outward looking and in terms of inward looking, I see a tremendous amount of opportunity for the Philippines, in the coming years.
Thank you. Agustin, I think you have something to say in your head. You want to share?
Hi, good afternoon, guys. Well, just wanted to comment first on the part about the central bank. So I think as a digital bank, for us, we should be very active and try to influence, and not wait for the guidelines to come out. I mean, they're there to guide us, but if we should start the ball rolling and have for me, open finance is inclusive finance, and being able to tie that together and be able to create the infrastructure already. We have started with some of the partnerships that we've been having locally with Todd and the other players in the open finance field. If we're able to do that, and as I echo what Wei is saying, if we're able to provide that convergence through the vehicle of open finance, imagine the power of being able to address pain points of customers, individual SMEs, co-ops, and the like, and be able to give more insights, embed ourselves in their day-to-day life. The insights of that can be very powerful, be it locally or the Filipinos abroad. If we're able to have that real-time data available to us, imagine the power of what it can do to have a more customized products, services, and as a financial services, by the way, to be able to do that. So I guess that's very critical for us, and we should really start the ball rolling and actively have some collaboration. The tenets of the open finance of central bank is portability, interoperability, and collaboration. And here we are already now. Let's start with the collaboration and get it started. That's my perspective, Diego. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Agustin. So, and in your interactions with the Philippine cooperatives, what is the level of awareness and acceptance of this concept approach of open finance, especially those who are among introduced to you? Are they being embrace potential of technology or data and digitalization to move their enterprise forward? what's the look and feel in working with them? Is it something that you need to work on, difficult, or you're just there?
Okay, for the cooperatives, I think they are still in the conservative side of data sharing and whatnot in terms of providing access, or them having an access to other third-party finance platforms. But in a nutshell, like there's a high percentage of consumers and end users in the cooperatives that would appreciate having an open platform wherein other banks, other wallets, and other financial products are available in the app, and it's not just a close app within their cooperative. So that is, I think, that gives us a signal that there's that openness, so long as they are educated and they are apprised on the sensitivity of the data disclosed to other parties. I think this can open a lot of doors for open finance and embedded finance.
Hi, Todd. Diego, with your permission, I'd like to jump in on this particular point.
Go ahead, Amor.
Todd, Chris, and Tin, even Wei and Anne. Last year, there was an incident, right? With two domestically significant financial institutions. And essentially the prevailing buzz is that, once we open up, right, then we welcome vulnerabilities. Tell me why that isn't so. So to all of the technologists here, I think Todd, Chris is raring to say something. Why don't we start with Chris, and then I'm seeing Tin and everyone else. They're using it as a boogeyman. Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think, it's always going to be right that someone's going to worry, but we're not the first to do this. And we're not the second, and we're not the third. We really do have the shoulders of others to stand on, the work that's gone before in other countries to really help us in this space. There is so many different examples in different industries of how things have opened up, how the technology has improved, and very much we're seeing now like the consolidation of a fair bit of technology that it almost like takes some of these past concerns away and automates and makes it easier to sort of, to not have the same threat that was there before. And so I certainly think that if we were talking about this 10 years ago, there'd be so many unknowns and so many difficult problems to deal with. And I feel that now the technology is so much richer, so much better, that we can deploy things that we can both share in the trust of them, we can both share data securely. And I do sort of feel as well that the role of potential legislation in this space can help a lot, because you can get a lot of confidence from something that the government has helped work through with various partners to say, hey, this works, this is useful and you can use it. And we should start from there, and not necessarily use the problems of the past to prevent us.
Todd?
Anything more?
Sorry. Yes. No. I want to ask the digital bankers here and Todd how to allay the fears of the players with regards to equating open finance with opening up to vulnerabilities. Tin, Todd, did you want to say something?
Todd? Okay.
No, go ahead, Tin, please.
Yeah, I think
It doesn't seem like no one wants to touch this topic.
Correct. Well, actually, correct to what Chris has mentioned. I think the mindset is something where there's fear in terms of the unknown. But as we know it, if you go to the first world and the second world countries, this is already happening. It's already there. It's not like we're embarking on something new here. It's a matter of employing. I think with the cases of the past, there are a lot of basics there that have also been missed. And if we are able to correctly put the infrastructure, data protection, all the security that goes with it, I think we should start with that. And we have to prove it. We have to prove that open finance works. And it is happening. And we just have to continue to educate as well, I think. As one probably from the central bank, BSP, be able to start doing some educational drive. And us as the actual players already now, digital banks being more open than the incumbents, I think we just have to showcase that this thing works. And I liken it to if you prepare a dish and you have ingredients to the dish, right? I liken this to an onion. You have to peel it down, peel it off, and get to see how it will be. You cut it up, and you'll have teary eyes because you don't know because of the nature of it. But once you put it into the dish, you can see the flavor that will come into it. No, so we're in that stage. No, we're peeling we're peeling the skin. We're trying to understand open finance. We're trying to see how that can benefit the dish, which is the open finance platform and analogy. And then you'll see that it can be proven to work, and it actually added flavor to the platform and embed that new. It's not like a future thing. No, it's now. It's here. So it's a matter of embedding it now and making it work. Starting off with the key players here now in the Philippines. Thank you.
Todd, did you want to chime in, or should I fire a slightly fierier question at you?
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Amor.
Okay, so since it's a fireside chat, let's turn up the heat a little. To all of you, and not just to Todd, if there are changes, so part of our advocacy in Digital Pilipinas is to really create lasting changes in the ecosystem, and some of them might be related to regulation and legislation, whether repealing or lack thereof, right? Instituting new regulation. So to all of you, what do you think would be the 1 to 2 things that we need to change or add or subtract in the current ecosystem that would allow for greater adoption of open finance in the Philippines?
Sure, I'll give one comment. I think I don't think it's controversial to say that open finance is meant to stimulate innovation, number one. So i.e. enabling new digital products that didn't exist previously, because you're unbundling the financial services from how you access the financial services. Number two, it's meant to be pro-customer. It's meant to give the customer choice in how they access financial services, easier data portability, and giving the customer a choice of how they how they set up and manage their portfolio of financial services, right? So it is meant to empower the customer and create product innovation and lead to product innovation, right? So why do I give that preface? Because it, I think, requires, whether it's legislation or regulation, requires non-banks and consumer groups to participate in the discussion so that they can represent their interests as well, because they are the ones ultimately benefiting from and clamoring for open finance, even more than a lot of the banks right now. GoTime and Coins and Uno have a bit different DNA because they're digital kind of from the start, right? But I think a lot of the incumbents, the initial kind of immune response is a conservative one, right? So I think shifting the conversation to empower consumers and empower and enable innovation in the next generation of startups that use open finance is important.
I certainly think that things that lower the cost of entry for open finance are great. You know, I do tend to believe in standard. If you're a fintech trying to decide how to integrate with a new partner because you want a great deal, you know, every integration costs money and takes time. If there's fewer integrations you do, then as a fintech, you're going to accelerate, do more, come up with better ideas. On the flip side, even if you're a bank, you know, when you're working with other partners, then the lower the cost is to integrate with partners. So, you know, some form of standard will help a lot. So I think that's one thing. And the second thing I'll comment on is kind of a bit on, I suppose it's similar to what Todd just said, but you do need a bit of a mindset shift. So as an incumbent or an existing organization, you have to be willing to accept that, you know, your play is going to be about your product and your product being better than somebody else. And so if you open up, you're going to grow the pie for everybody, and you're going to win because your product's good. You're not going to be immediately threatened because you're giving away a small piece of data to a third party to do something. You know, you're hopefully going to look at that and say, hey, I've learned from that, I now know something better. And that's a bit of a cultural and a mindset and a whole sort of shift. It probably goes along with the education you need of other parties as well. So those two things would be really key to me.
Thank you so much, everybody. I just have one more question while we're waiting for Diego, our moderator, to come back from his technical difficulties. I just have one more question. This is directed to everybody. As part of an ecosystem, what can your companies do to get more startups and MSMEs on board to open finance? Todd, can we start with you?
So the question is on mass adoption, right? How do we get non-FIs to get more involved? Is that right, Diego?
Yes, ma'am.
Yep. So yeah, I think the thing to look at is Open Finance Challenge that we're doing with Kaya Founders. They're a local VC where we're incubating and giving mentorship to the next generation of startups that are using open finance. So more of these collaborations where we're encouraging the next generation.
I agree. I think collaboration is key. Being part of that ecosystem as a digital bank, we can sit in the middle of that whole ecosystem and try to support the financial servicing needed by an individual, a co-op, or an MSME, and be able to participate actively, active piloting, active sandboxing. I think that has to start. That's the initial or the necessary first step for you to showcase how it really works, and then the others will sort of see and follow and be more educated, and then the mindset will shift in terms of seeing proof of the adoption of open finance.
Yeah. For me, I think API Marketplace is a good tool to accelerate and encourage non-financial institutions to be part of the ecosystem. It provides accessibility for other third parties to be part of the platform that we are promoting. So that is very key in terms of our integrations with others.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Thank you to our speakers and panelists. Now we have come to the tail end of our Open Finance Summit. Again, this is only a prelude to the Philippine FinTech Festival, which will be an entire week of in-person talks, hackathons, networking, and innovation tours. Todd, would you like to invite our friends here to gather with us at the Philippine FinTech Festival?
Or maybe we can ask everyone before we turn it over to Todd, what do they expect to see in the Philippine FinTech Festival? And then we can have Todd close it. Is that okay?
I'll start as day one.
Yes, exactly, because you guys all are championing a particular pillar. So what can they expect?
So I encourage everyone to be at the Philippine FinTech Festival, particularly in witnessing the launch of the digital cooperative, DigiCoop. We will showcase the not just the products and the services, but also what's going on in the cooperative sector as far as digital adoption is concerned.
As I'll be next, okay. Hi, so I'm to everyone, please join us in the Philippine FinTech Festival. It is very exciting for us being the newly approved, new kids on the block banks in the Philippines, and being able to, it's our coming out party in a way, right? All the digital banks will be there. You'll see us live, not just on a video call for the past 2 years during the pandemic, but we were setting up the bank during the pandemic remotely. So it's really nice to finally be out there showcasing our whatever we can offer to the market, to the Philippine market, and be actively collaborating with everyone also who are very digitally inclined and pushing forward, teching up Philippines. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I just want to say it's going to be the best IRL or in real life event of the Philippines for the last 2 years. It's going to be great seeing everyone, hopefully maskless. I've been going to events here in Singapore for Tokyo for a bunch of stuff. And it's great seeing. I've seen people that I haven't seen in like 2 years. I think it's be great to, for old friends to connect, and also I look forward to meeting a lot of new friends, including everyone here on this call. In the Philippines for the Philippines FinTech Festival. It's going to be an amazing event. And we're going to be just really, I think, bring progress and transformation and fundamentally bring real economic development and change to the Philippines.
Yeah, I think that sounds fantastic, and that in real life event at long last. It seems to be far too long in coming a chance for us all to get together again. So I'm certainly looking forward to that. And I really think there were some great topics listed earlier on, some great things that we'll get a chance to talk about. And being part of the global fintech community in the Philippines, representing itself in this is a really great opportunity. So I'd encourage everyone to be part of that.
Yep, and I'd also like to encourage all of you to attend the week of October 17th. There will be we'll be showcasing the startups from the Open Finance Challenge, and we will also be sharing some of these Indonesia-Philippines bridges too, and some of the startup and investor cooperation between Indonesia and the Philippines. So looking forward to learning and participating in that as well.
Thank you so much to our speakers and panelists. Amor, do you have anything to say?
All good, except we look forward to having a drink with everyone during the Philippine FinTech Festival. And seriously, right? You just, Wei said it best, which is this is a great community. I don't know if you guys have ever been in a community, in a FinTech community, where everyone really acts and treats everyone like family. And so please come down, and we look forward to having everyone. And mabuhay po kayong lahat. We'll see you very soon in our next Road to Philippine FinTech Festival webinar. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Amor.
everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. And thank you all for attending the Road to Philippine FinTech Festival Series Open Finance Summit. Now, don't forget to mark your calendars for the Philippine FinTech Festival on October 17 to 21 at the Green Sun, the home of Digital Pilipinas. Also, you can enjoy special access for 50% on the regular rate of passes for the Philippine FinTech Festival. Just scan this QR, then input the code BrancasXPFF when you register. This special access is only from September 26 to October 10, 2022. Now, please take note, this code cannot be used in conjunction with other special access options, and it can only be applied to single pass purchases. Thank you.